Elliot Anderson's already signed. Buwadi looks like we're pretty much just waiting for a confirmation for him. But I think there's 3 positions in which all City fans would still say that we need to be bringing players in for: right back, midfielder, based on, potentially Rodri leaving, and a winger. The one we're going to be focusing on is the winger position. Now, there's been names that have been touted from other clubs. Obviously, with it looking like Savinho's going to leave, we're looking to probably get a replacement in there. Seems to be the main theory behind getting in the winger. Me personally, I talked in the last video about Semenyo. We've already got Doku. We've got youngsters like Makadu in there already. I think we've got a good basis. People keep talking about bringing in someone to come in and start straight away. I think Semenyo and Doku are good enough in my opinion, but I think we've also got other options that are already there. Now, before I get into that, we've got options that people have been kind of talking about from other clubs that we're potentially looking at. The one that kind of seems like if he's going anywhere, it's going to be Arsenal, and if not, he's probably going to be staying at a club that he's currently at. But potentially we could be sniffing around is Vinny Jr. Now, I'll be honest, I hate the bloke. He's a bit of a cunt, let's be honest. We've given him a bit of shit, so fair enough, he'd give us a bit of shit back, but still a fucking swat, mate. But as a footballer, you cannot deny the ability of him, and if we're going to sit here and act like based purely on his footballing ability he wouldn't come straight into the team, come on. I mean, I love Jeremy Doku, but Vinny Jr. is better. Doesn't mean to say Doku would be dropped, but come on. The one name though that is really annoying me, now I know if he comes in I'll obviously have to try and get behind him because he'll be one of our players, but one player I do not want to see sign for our club that has been heavily linked, and it actually seems to not be a joke. When it first came about, it was just a little something, then it wasn't there in his name. Now his name's been coming up a lot again in the last couple of days. Pedro Neto. I am not liking that at all. Now, don't get me wrong, he was good at Wolves, yes, but even then, he was one of the better players in Wolves, but it weren't like he was scoring fucking 20 goals and getting 20 assists or some shit. It weren't like, why are you there? Don't get me wrong, you probably thought, why is he at Wolves? But you didn't think, fucking hell, mate, like, fuck Wolves, like he should be at like a team competing for the league. I don't think anyone thought that. He wasn't that level. And I just think, as much as I hate Savinho, yes, I want Savinho out. Yes, I think 60 mil for him, yeah, whatever. But if you're giving me the option between keeping Savinho and bringing in Neto, and that's the only thing we can do, I'd rather keep Savinho than bring Neto in, because, okay, Savinho hasn't done that great at all, and that's why I want him out, but with Neto, you know his level, you know what Neto is at best. Now, yes, that we know for a certainty what Neto can get to is better than what we've already seen from Savinho. However, there is still potential, and I think we've seen signs that if Savinho really got going, his ceiling is higher than what the ceiling of Neto is. So I'd rather keep Savinho if Neto was the option, just because I think his ceiling isn't that very high. Plus, Chelsea aren't going to let you have him for fucking cheap, are they? And realistically, if anyone's going to sit there and try and tell me that even if we bring Neto in, even if they're behind that signing, that he's going to come in and be a starter, please do not. You cannot be hating on Semenyo that much, seriously. But then we get into what the main talking point was about, which for me is players that we've already got at the club. Now, I've talked about Ryan McAdoo. Again, for me, if he is to be integrated into the squad properly this season, it would be as a backup. He's young, he's just come through the academy, it's going to take time. I'm not going to lie, I haven't watched a lot of him, I don't really watch a lot of the academy. He's got a heavy praise from a lot of people that have watched him, other City fans that have watched him. So, yeah, I mean, he's got an exciting future. I mean, I talked in the last video about the Semenyo run that he went on. Well, there was a similar one that McAdoo went on against Inter Milan, so, do you know what I mean? Fucking hell, he must be quality, because that pre-season game and everything to Inter Milan. But yeah, it was actually quite good run. He hit the post, he was unlucky, but I think to properly develop him, yes, he needs to get game time, in which, if you're going to do that, probably integrate him this season. And again, that's someone that I'd rather, even though I don't know a lot in terms of, I haven't watched a lot of him, based on the way people talk about him, his ceiling's bigger than Neto's is, so I'd rather have him in there and have him as a backup to whatever winger we have. But The main player that I was going to talk about is Ryan Cherki. Now, what an impact this guy had last season coming into the squad. Initially, we went in for Wirtz, missed out on that. We bring in Cherki for 30 mil, a lot less. We're getting told about his attitude problems at Lyon. He's going to cause a fuss and all this. He comes in and he gets the second most assists in the league. Bearing in mind, by the way, that particularly first half of the season, he wasn't starting a lot of games, and people were actually throwing that at him as if to say he was doing bad. But actually, even then, he had the second most assists in the league, and he weren't playing that much. So that shows how fucking good he is. And I think he only finished like 9 off Bruno Fernandes, and Bruno Fernandes practically played every minute of every game. And like I said, Cherki didn't. So that shows the impact of him. Then I go into the stats. I've actually got them up here on Ryan Cherki. In terms of those goals and assists, he played 24 games for us across all competitions last season, scoring 6 goals and 6 assists. That's from right wing, by the way. We compare that to when he played as an attacking midfielder. Again, playing 24 games, so the same amount that he played at right wing. Scored 3 goals and got 8 assists. So he did get 2 more assists, but he also got less goals. He got less contributions overall than he did at right winger. And I think that shows that he's more than capable. You talk about the right winger market nowadays. It's pretty much like, unless you go and get someone the level of like a Doué or a Vinny Jr., which I'll be honest, I do not see happening, especially when PSG already look like they're trying to sell Barcola. I don't see Doué getting sold in the same summer. You know what I mean? Like, I know they'll get a lot for him, but I just don't see that happening. And I think it's pretty undeniable that Cherki needs to start last season. He was definitely one of our best players. You could argue he was our best player last season. And again, he wasn't starting a lot of the games first half of the season. So with what he achieved with the minutes that he had anyway, imagine what double the amount of minutes he can do with that. So he definitely needs to be in. A lot of people say he needs to be in the midfield. However, like I've just shown you with the stats, he can clearly do a job on the right hand side. And I also think in terms of other players in the squad, benefiting the team, benefiting players, getting the chances that they need, it also opens up positions in the midfield, in the attacking midfield role, for players to deliver. One person that I've talked about that I think a lot of people have talked about that needs to deliver now, I made a video on this a couple of weeks ago, is Phil Foden. Now, he's our star boy, he's one of our own. Of course we're going to love him, because, you know, especially when we've seen what he can do with that 23-24 season. We saw towards the start of this season what he can do. And actually, that's what I wanted to bring up. Again, I mentioned the stats with Cherki at right wing in comparison to the other positions he played. Obviously, Foden had that period at the start of the season. And here you see that he played 28 games from the attacking midfield role. And he scored 5 goals and got 4 assists, which is more overall than he got in any other position. Now, don't get me wrong, he played 10 games at right wing, it says here, to space on Transfer Market, by the way, so, you know, I can't say it's completely factual, I'm just going off this. And he played 6 games at left winger and then a couple at centre midfield, so a bit deeper back. But he got his most assists from the attacking midfield role, so Cherki on the right, getting assists, that's where he got the most assists. That opens up the space for Foden. We're talking about Foden needing to deliver. Clearly it shows that Foden is at his best, at least last season, at least this version of Foden, when he's playing in the middle of the park. You could argue that maybe in 23-24 he wasn't quite playing out and out through the middle, but he still was drifting inside a lot. I mean, that's the middle of the park, although he might have been starting on the right or potentially on the left sometimes, that's where he was doing his business. You know, you remember the goals against Man United, the goal against West Ham last day of the season, all came from that little bit of the edge of the area. That's where he does his thing. We saw that assist against Palace this season. Similar sort of area, that's where you need him to be, even if he is drifting on from the right. And that could be a thing in itself. You're talking about wingers that we need. I think it is particularly the right winger that we're looking at. Some people might disagree with that, but I think Cherki and Foden, they can interject. I would personally play Cherki out wide, because I think based on these stats, it actually shows that Foden's period when he was doing good was when he was playing in the attacking mid role. Other players that could also get more of a chance should they stay in, should they not get sold, this summer in that 10 role, that would be a space opened up if we move Cherki over to the wing predominantly, is Reinders. Now, he has been linked away to a move to Galatasaray. Some people are saying that he's one of the names that needs to go. But if he doesn't, that opens up more of a chance for him to prove himself in a position where he will be better, because it allows him to just mainly rely on his technical abilities instead of, what we've seen through a lot of last season, which is the fact that he couldn't really cope at all with the physicality. And I think this actually gives us a very, very solid basis for our wingers. Yes, I know Cherki isn't the type of out-and-out winger that everyone wants, but come on, let's be real, there isn't a whole lot, and the few that there is, they're going to cost hundreds of millions of pounds. We were looking at Diomande. He looks like he's going to Madrid. I think he might already be at Madrid. He cost £100 million after one good season. I talked in the last video, Semenyo's best position to get the best out of him is left wing, so you can have Doku and Semenyo at the left. Even if you have Doku as the main fella, it allows Doku to get more of a rest and be at full fitness for the games that we really, really needed them in, to perform to the highest level. And we're not dropping off a lot by bringing Semenyo in over there. Then on the right we can have Cherki. You can even put Foden out there every now and again, and we can also allow someone like Makadu to grow. So I think that gives us a good basis. What do you think? Do you think we need a winger? Do you think Cherki can do the job there? And if you do think we need a winger, would you be happy if it was someone like Cherki who wasn't necessarily an out-and-out winger, or do you think we need one of these like Doku type wingers who's proper, like, fast, quick, takes you on sort of stuff? Is that what we need? Because I'll be honest, it's a nice thought, but Vinny gets you the output and also plays like that. I don't know how realistic that is. As I mentioned, Diomande's already gone. I don't think these are really viable options. Barcola maybe is the viable option there, because he looks like he's leaving, but it looks like he's going to Liverpool, so I don't even know if that one's that realistic, to be honest with you. But what do you think? Leave in the comments down below. See you in a bit.